you. The next presentation is actually one that focuses on the environment. So climate change is a really big problem. It might impact places that are really close to home. In this case, our next speaker is from the Greater London Authority, and the talk will be about how data science is used for climate change in London. So the speaker will talk about how data is harnessed, analyzed, and used to generate important insights for managing the changes in extreme weather events caused by the long-term problem of climate change. So we're really excited to have Kristen with us today. Kristen.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, we can hear you, so I'll leave you to it. Thank you.
Yeah, should I share my screen or?
We have your slides, so we can click it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be really helpful, actually. Great, thanks very much. Yeah, so hi, I'm Kristen. I'm from the London Climate Change Partnership here at City Hall in London. So yeah, I'm part of the Greater London Authority. I sit in the Mayor's Environment Policy team. But actually my role is a lot more outward facing. It's about really bringing people together from across different sectors and different organizations to think about how climate change is going to be affecting us in London and what we're going to do in terms of responding to the risks. And so I'm here to talk a little bit about how we use data to inform our understanding of the climate risks in London, and also how we use it to understand or inform the efforts to address the risks. And I'll say a bit about that and also a little bit about what our data needs are, the kinds of things that we're still thinking about. So in terms of just thinking about why we do it, I mean, on this slide, you can see a couple of examples of the fact that we're already seeing impacts. So globally, you've probably heard over the summer and autumn about wildfires in the Arctic and on the west coast of the United States. We've seen disruption of shipping due to low water levels in the Panama Canal, for example. And here in the UK, on the left, you can see there was a derailment in Stonehaven in August, and that was a fatal crash that was due to heavy rain that compromised the earthworks stability of the rail. We've also seen flooding in Croydon over the summer, and I should just say that both of those examples were things that happened due to water, but also during really particularly hot periods. And so it's worth kind of thinking about. And also we see a picture of the heathland fires in Surrey, where about 40 hectares were burned, and even rural heathland fires can affect infrastructure and have knock-on effects beyond rural areas. So just to be really clear, I mean, this is not a future problem. This is not future climate change that we're talking about. This is something that's very much with us today. So thinking about what data we use in our efforts to be climate resilient. Could you go to the next slide, please? Sorry. Thanks. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if we're going to understand the risks from climate change and how climate change, what the projected changes in our climate actually are. And so we get a lot of that from the Met Office in its suite of climate projections for temperature, precipitation, and sea level rise. But for that data to be really useful, it needs to be combined with some understanding of how climate interacts with our own systems, meaning, our buildings, our infrastructure, our people, and so forth. So next slide, please. So we've used the data to show kind of how climate change plays out in a practical way in London. Here you can see, our exposure to surface water flooding in London, commercial and residential, looking at the water supply demand deficit for London, understanding that we're actually projected to run out of water and have, a huge deficit by around 2040. And also looking, at things like thermal imaging of the surface of an apartment building, looking at high temperatures there due to exposure to the sun. So just to say that how we understand the risks from climate change and how we understand how to adapt isn't just about the weather. It's not just about what's falling out of the sky. It's all moderated or exacerbated by things that are happening on the ground. Next slide, please. So also, I mean, thinking about climate risk is also about kind of personal and social conditions that drive vulnerability. And the impacts of climate change are not going to be equal or fair. They're not going to hit everybody equally. So those with the most resources and the greatest means to prepare and respond and recover will be more resilient, while those without will be further disadvantaged. And social vulnerability to climate change it's described in terms of, you know, what conditions make people particularly vulnerable, or what affects your ability to prepare or respond or recover from climate or weather risks like flooding or heat waves. So a few of these are listed here, and they're largely, probably not surprisingly, about poverty and deprivation. And so this is something that we also need to think about with regard to the solutions that we propose. So whether